Hello everybody, I am Ben from Team Panic, and it's finally time for some more event reports. It has been ages since we've done this, and I am so pumped to show you what happened at ARC's September meet. So the next kind of couple of videos, at least 2, maybe 3 videos that you're going to see out of this channel are all going to be event reports and stuff relating to this particular event. And we're going to start with Annie, are you okay? So she has obviously had a lot of work in the past couple of weeks because we found some issues with her, and then I did a live stream to kind of CAD the fixes for those, and then I've gone through and fixed all of that stuff. So I was really keen to see how these changes actually held up in the arena rather than just kind of, on my desk, because things working on the desk or in the test box is very different from working in the arena. So anyway, let's jump on into this. So the first thing I will say is that one of the pits in the Betaway arena was just down all day. In setup, we could not get the pit to actually raise, so it was just busted and it just had to stay open all day, and it was just left like that for every single fight. So all the Betaweight fights happen with an open pit, meaning that some of the fights got cut a little bit short, but it is what it is. You know, when things have been sitting around for a while, sometimes things go wrong. Anyway, we're going to go into some fights. So the first fight up, Annie was going up against a robot called Forky, which was a brand new construction for this event, and it's a kind of lifter grabber type mechanism, fairly solid chunky HDPE to make up the whole robot. Now, I had the Bowtie Blade on, and normally in this instance I would run the disc. However, because Annie's whole weapon system was new, I didn't really want to try the disc because I knew the Bowtie Blade would work. So trying the disc as the first thing out in an event would have been a risky move. So I stuck with the Bowtie Blade. I knew I could spin that up. So I figured I might as well get at least one spin up in before trying something new which could possibly break it. So let's take a look at how Annie's new weapon system with the Bowtie Blade worked in this fight.
3, 2, 1, go!
Yes! It worked awesome. So much better than it has worked in any of the last like 3 or 4 events. The spin up time is fantastic. I got it fairly high up in this fight and it just kept going. When I pulled this thing out, there was no belt burn on any of the pulleys on the belt, no damage to anything. Everything was exactly as it should have been coming out of the arena, or as actually the same as it went into the arena, basically, other than some scuffs on the weapon. It was the same thing, which was really cool. This fight itself was a lot of fun. Yeah, I actually managed to take out the weapon system. I hit him hard enough on those forks that it broke the gearbox that was running that motor, running those arms up and down. So the weapon has got some power in it, which is nice. That is really good to see. There is a slight problem though, and that is we're running on Annie's weapon bolt now. That's the front contact surface, and this is not a great spot to run on. So for a couple of reasons. One, it doesn't like the slight lips and variations in arena height that we have in the ARC arena, so I kind of get stuck on some of those from time to time. And B, because it's quite far forwards and quite, I mean, it's not exactly a slippery surface because it's a bolt head, Annie can have a bit of trouble driving, especially when the weapon is up at certain speeds. I don't know what it was. There were certain speeds where she drove worse than others. So like further up, she drove better than kind of mid-range on the stick, which was all a bit weird to me. But that is what it is. It's something that we'll do when we make some very slight changes to Annie in the near future. There's a couple of little tweaks after this event that I want to make, but nowhere near the amount of changes that we've had to make going through into this. So that was a good fight, and we got our first win, and the weapon kept working. So it was time for a stress test. I put the disc on because Annie is now going up against Anti-Dozer, who is just a tank of a robot. Like, it's got steel front armor, and it's got nice wheel guards, and it's not really 6-wheel drive. It looks like it is, but only the 2 middle wheels are actually driving. But it is quite a tanky, robust robot. So let's take a look at this one.
2, 1, go!
Yet again, the weapon is still working. Once again, the weapon speed, like, it comes up to speed really quickly, and it stayed at speed quite nicely. I got slammed headfirst into the wall, which I'm pretty sure stopped the weapon. And once again, there was no belt burn. There was nothing wrong with the weapon system when I pulled it out and had a look at it. So that just worked. These upgrades are awesome. They are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, and it's I'm so happy about all of this. What I'm not happy about is the fact that that fight was over rather quickly. I mean, that pit being open, he got stuck, and that was the end of that, basically. Yeah, there was some good moments in that fight, and it was a good test of the disc. But yeah, like I said, it was a little bit too short. So the next fight is the final fight for the round robin group, and we're sitting in a pretty good position with 2 wins and no losses. So the next fight is up against Bunyip, which is a 4-wheel drive drum spinning beetle, and it's an interesting design. I went back to the bar. Normally I would run the single tooth for this guy, but I was kind of running out of time between bits and pieces, and then at the time this fight happened, I didn't have the single tooth actually bolted into anything, so I went back to the bar because the bar could probably deal with this fight. So let's take a look at this.
3, 1, go!
Wow. This is going to be my highlight fight of 2020. Maybe, I don't know, it's almost my highlight fight of a full year, I reckon. It was so much fun and so much stuff happened. We got flipped upside down and right back up again multiple times. The weapon was working really, really well right up until it got jammed. We got stuck up against a wall. So much stuff happened in this fight. So let's kind of go through these a little bit kind of in order-ish. So the flipping wasn't too much of an issue. Annie is designed to drive upside down and she can do that quite well. In actual fact, she was driving better upside down than she was driving on the Bolt, and she was driving a lot better upside down than when there was a big honking piece of rubber stuck in the weapon, because the weapon was then leaning the whole robot and only really one wheel was touching the ground. The other one was kind of, but not really. So it was a bit awkward to drive with that big piece of rubber jammed up in Annie's front there. But we did manage to do it kind of the whole time while that was happening, while that piece of rubber was jammed up in there. I was basically just trying to drive the rubber into his weapon, trying to get him to unlodge his own wheel out of my weapon with his weapon. And if he jammed up his own weapon in the meantime, like, awesome, that would have been great. But that was my whole thought process, was just get the wheel pointing at his drum the whole time and see what we can do. Obviously that didn't work all that well for the most part. I mean, it did eventually work, but before that we got stuck up on the wall. Now, if you go back and watch that specific part of the fight again, what was happening was Annie was stuck up on the wall. Both wheels were not touching anything at all, so there was nothing I could do with those because she was kind of like high centered on the back of her chassis, and I had rubber in the weapon, so there wasn't really anything I could do there. But I realized if I did nothing, that was it. I was going to be out for the fight. So what I actually end up doing is throttling up and down the weapon pretty much constantly, just like up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And of course, the weapon's not going anywhere. It's not doing anything except jitter, just slightly. Like as the brushless motor is attempting to spin up and then like getting the friction from the rubber and stopping, it's jittering just a little bit. It's like a tiny little amount of movement, and that was enough to free Annie and get her to fall back into the arena and keep the fight going. So that was the Hail Maryest pass of all Hail Marys, and it worked somehow. We got back into the fight and it was, I'm blown away that worked at all. Then the big thing that happened, of course, is that the tire got unjammed from the weapon and the weapon spun back up, which is again incredible. These upgrades have done amazing stuff to her weapon system, because when that tire got jammed in there, that is going to be the worst case conditions for a weapon. That is full speed to a dead stop in no time at all. If anything was going to break or get damaged, it's that type of hit that is going to do it, where the weapon gets jammed and just suddenly stops dead. So the fact that there was basically little to no damage, there was a tiny bit of wear around the top of the belt, which actually I think is because the belt rose up a little bit, so it was wearing on a piece of the pulley that wasn't the right size or shape for it. Other than that tiny little bit, there was no damage to the weapon, which I was blown away by. To be perfectly honest, that's the worst conditions that this thing could have been in, and it survived no problem. So the new weapon system is looking great. So then, end of the fight time, because we have our weapon back, and his weapon had gone down actually in that last hit, or maybe it was a little bit after that last hit that got the weapon, got our weapon unstuck. His weapon went down, so we were the only one with a weapon in the arena, and a nice little bank shot kind of nicked his wheels and spun him out into the pit, which was a really, really good, like, it was an accident, of course, but it was a great shot, I think. And also, I don't think he would have been able to continue, maybe, even if he hadn't hit the pit, because if you watch the last kind of couple of frames there as he goes into the pit, one of his wheels comes loose. I mean, I have seen Bunyip drive around on one wheel before, but it's not controlled movement, so I probably would have gone after and got the last wheel had he avoided the pit. So that was that fight, and that was our round robin group done, and we came out of it with 3 wins. Annie is undefeated with her new weapon setup, which is amazing. This is the best that she has done in a very, very, very long time. I'm blown away by all of this. So we've got a semi-final fight to go into, and this is up against Super Mousy, who is literally just like a giant wedge of HDPE. This thing is thick HDPE on every single surface, embedded wheels. It's a bit of a nightmare for an undercutter to fight. So we put the disc back on, and we had a go at it.
2, 1, go!
So that was an interesting fight. Super Mousy, as I said at the start of that, is super, super durable. There were some really nice big hits in there, and it just shrugged them off like there was nothing happening. And it was super quick when it wanted to be as well. There's a couple of times where they, I don't know, line something up perfectly and just shoot across the arena, slamming me into walls and different bits and pieces. We did end up winning that fight because one of the times I managed to get in underneath them, I actually locked one of the wheels up into the inside chassis piece, so that slowed them down quite a lot, and then when they got stuck up against the pit over there, they couldn't get out of that with their stuck wheel. So that's what happened there. It was an interesting fight, and one of the things I realized watching that fight back is I need to get a lot better at backing up and charging at people. There was a lot of time in this fight where I had my weapon spun up to full speed, and I was kind of hovering around Super Mousy, kind of giving little nibbles, but not getting enough speed to really get bite. Now, if you watched my MOI versus bite video, you'll know that it's your robot's speed that induces a lot of the bite, or at least the speed of the robots coming together that helps with bite. So the faster you hit someone, the more likely your weapon is to get a good bite and therefore transfer lots of energy. So I'm not fighting optimally with Annie at the moment, and that is something I can and should fix. But once again, we'll probably have to put the old standoffs back in so that she's not running on the weapon bolt anymore, so that we actually can do those things, because her maneuverability is a little bit limited right now running on that weapon bolt. But all of this means we're in the grand final. Yes! Annie is 4-0 right now, which has never happened before. Oh, it puts a massive smile on my face. She 4-0 into this tournament, right up into the finals, and this final is up against Bunyip. Now, Bunyip is the robot we fought before, the best fight of this set, like I said, of this year easily. So I was really, really excited to get back in there. And this time I did actually put the single tooth disc on for him because I had just a little bit more time between fights, so I decided that it was worth going and actually putting on the final weapon option. All right, let's check out the grand final.
3, 2, 1, go!
And it's unfortunately short. I mean, I'm more sad about the fight being a short fight than I am about losing the fight. Steve, who is the driver of Bunyip, drove really, really well there and used the open pit to his advantage. I mean, we got a wheel stuck in the weapon system again, thankfully less stuck this time, but that is something I can work on. In underneath Annie, there is a piece of HDPE that is kind of a guard to stop the weapon from hitting the underside of her chassis. It hits this kind of guard instead, and that's where the wheels are getting stuck. So I might be able to tweak and change the shape of that a little bit to stop them from being quite so devastating when they get stuck. But this time, in this fight, it wasn't too bad, and it took one flip over to get it unlodged again, which was nice. So then we're upside down without the wheel, so of course I spun the weapon back up, but I was right by the pit, and of course, when you're upside down, you're driving backwards and everything's a little bit off on your stick, so I was taking a couple of seconds to adjust to that. And yeah, he had a nice little flurry of blows that kind of steered me into the pit, and that was that. So yeah, there's a few little bits and pieces I can do. If I change Annie over to my new controller, I'm going to have the ability to put a reversing switch on that. So as soon as I flip over, I can pull a reversing switch and drive as normal. That would help a lot in that type of situation. Even though pulling the reversing switch will take a little bit of time, it's going to be easier for me to do that than take the kind of 3 to 4 seconds that it takes me to my brain to go, oh, now I need to be pushing backwards on the stick rather than forwards on the stick. And yeah, just avoid stuff like that from happening. So yeah, a little bit sad that it ended that way, but we did get second. Annie got a second, and she went 4-1 for a competition, which I'm amazed by that. And both Steve and I, so Annie and Bunyip, had amazing events this time round. You've probably seen Bunyip, I think, on this channel before. Bunyip has been having a lot of issues like Annie's been having. Basically, Bunyip had gone through a lot of tournaments where something would break every single fight, causing it to lose a fight. And so for both of these two robots to have fairly good runs all the way through the tournament and have a final between them, it was a great moment. I really did enjoy all of this tournament. I mean, like I said, I wish that fight had gone a little bit longer, but Steve drove that well and did a good job on that fight. And I'm not unhappy. Like, Annie is working so well right now with a few little tweaks and changes that just make her that much easier to drive and that much easier to control. I think we could go all the way next time, hopefully. Anyway, that is the end of this video. She's done really well, and I'm going to stop gushing about it now because I have just been so hyper and energetic because I'm so excited through this whole video. Yes, Annie is finally okay. And on that note, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next video.